Okay, so it is literally a few hours before Chag. So we have Shavuos. So first of all, good Yontif everybody. Chag Sameach. Hope everyone has a great Yontif and also Shabbos together. It's a two-dayer. So here in Eretz Yisrael, we're gonna probably freak out a shtickle, but I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay. Um, Hope so. Hope we've done this before. If Tavshilin, we've done this before in Israel. We know how to do this, so you don't have to email and text me like you've done in the past. We're kind of good on those bases. Um, there's a interesting idea that is kind of fermenting in my head since like Pesach really. Um, and then we talked about it literally Pesach. We hit this on Tazria Metzora, Emar, and it culminates in Rus and Shavuos, and it ties Nasso. This idea that of Chesed. The idea of Chesed is such a critical piece, which is Kadmul Torah. And we talk about this 49 days. We're preparing. Ishachad, Levachad, why there's no mention of the day of Matan Torah in the Torah, but we prepare for it. We spent 49 days to get to this day, 49 days. But the actual day that we give the Torah, we don't really know. The Gemara says it's 7, it's 6. We do it on the 6th and the 7th. So the idea that there's really a lot of preparation into this. And what's the preparation? Uh, the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva died not because they didn't learn Torah, and Avos is chock full of Adam Lachavero. So that there really isn't preparing for Torah by learning Torah. Their preparing for Torah is to get your midos up to a better place. And to really work on your midos is really a process. It's a process. 7 weeks. It's a process. We didn't wake up yesterday from Pesach. It was literally 7 weeks ago. Maybe it feels like shorter. I don't know, longer. But there's this process. We talked about this on Pesach. Is that we have this idea that there's Russia. Russia says, not Lee, it's Lachem. It's Modvos Lachem. This is your stuff, not me. And the guy's called a Russia. And that week I was learning in the Gemara Kini Masechta the idea that someone who doesn't daven for someone is called a Russia. And I said, okay, I think that's pshat. That's a Russia. Not a guy who drives on Shabbos. Not a guy who's learned Torah. Not a guy who you know waits only 3 hours between meat and milk. That guy, kidneys. Not those people. The guy doesn't care for anybody. Someone who doesn't really have any care for the other person, doesn't daven. Ad kedei kach. You don't daven for someone. You could. You're in shul. You stay 5 minutes longer. Say Tehillim, 3 seconds, 8 seconds. And in Israel, unfortunately, we have a need for Tehillim. And since really 9/11, um, I'm sorry, the 7th, October 7th, 9/11, October 7th, we've been having, Tehillim almost every day, literally. They changed which ones. Pei Gimel, Kuf Chav Beis. And it just strikes me that people can just either talk during Tehillim or walk. Walking out's one thing, you have to go, But people talking, people that their kids were in the army, people that need refuah, people that relatives, and just the idea that you're in shul and just said 30 seconds. Maybe it's difficult for some people, I guess. The idea not to daven for someone is you're called a Russia. You called a Russia, wicked person, Russia. So this idea I had through Pesach, and then a few weeks in, we have Tazria Metzora, and the Bear Parsha Biederman has this idea that a Metzora is someone who doesn't care about anybody, he's indifferent, can care less. And this guy has to go out of the machna because he's indifferent, he doesn't care, he's apathy. Someone who can care less about another Jew, another person. That's a Metzora, this guy. And who in the Tanakh do we have this guy? And got a few weeks ago to Torah, my parsha a few weeks ago. I asked people, who's this guy? The Torah just goes bananas on this guy, and no one really had an answer. And I mentioned I wouldn't guess either, but Eli Melech. And I said we're going to talk about this in Rus, and I actually Shavuos, and here we are, we're Shavuos time. So this idea that, as we're reading Rus tomorrow, the idea of one of the fundamental ideas of why Rus is in Shavuos. There's many different ideas, One is it's Ksir Chitim. It's the time of the cutting it. Um, Bikurim, Yeshua's time. Gerus, we became Jews. Rus is a Jew. She comes a how she become a Jew. But one of the central themes is Chesed. This is Chesed. The lack of Chesed, Elimelech, and the Chesed that Rus does and Naomi does. This formative idea literally is in the Megillus Rus. And we said a few weeks ago in Parashas Bahar, which really is Shemitah, which is backwards of tails Emor, Leket Shechampeah. That's literally the mitzvah in this area. Literally this mitzvah in Rus that Boaz sees her and he sees how great she is and she sees how great he is. And this idea comes in the fields, comes literally in the mitzvah of Leket Shechampeah. And like we said a few weeks ago, my mind until this few weeks ago, okay, it's one of the presents that a poor person gets. But no, the Torah Shmuel of Birnbaum says this is a huge deal because tzedakah, guy comes to shul, you give him, you don't give him five, whatever you give him, it's one area of tzedakah, which is great. But to have someone come into your field and take your stuff, even though you've been working on this field, you've been plowing, you've been putting the fertilizer down, you smell pretty bad, you're planting, you're watering, you're chasing away the bugs, chasing away, and your kishkis are really pouring out in this. Like you ever see a movie or a farmer who's smiling? You look at all these pictures, from 100 years ago or 10 years ago or now. The farmers aren't happy. It's a rough life. Let's be honest. Computer people, yeah, you have automated tools. You click up buttons, it runs the background. You get a coffee. QA, it is. You sit in your air conditioned rooms. The farmers don't have that. There's no air conditioning rooms for a farmer. No one's ever happy. So for a farmer to turn around and not get upset at that guy who just walks in off the street and just starts picking stuff off the ground, and you forget a row, he takes it, and the corner is you leave for him. This idea of chesed is the highest form of tzedakah or chesed that a person could ever attain. To have the ability that say, you know what, I worked on it, but you know what, most of it's mine. Yeah, some of it goes to the poor person. Totally fine with it, is what Hashem wants. This level is just a crazy level. And this kind of idea ties us back to where we are with Rus. Elimelech, who's wealthy, married, two sons, living in Beis Yehuda. He's living in Beis Lechem Yehuda. He's a shofet. He's a great, great man. He's got it all. One little problem. Mm, mm. There's a famine, and Medrash says he just can't take it anymore. People are banging on his door day in, day out, day in, day out. They're starving, they're hungry, and he just picks up and leaves. And the Be'er Parsha, the Midrashim, paint this in the most terrible light. And we're trying to pivot. Not me. My friend Mark Planning's trying to pivot. No, Mashiach comes from him. Not really, by the way. It comes from his daughter-in-law and Boaz. Not really from his son. So not really his offspring. But that's another discussion for another day. No, you can't say he's such a great man. Makes this mistake. So he tries to find sources. We're trying to find. He's trying to find something good. And Epstein wrote a Sefer, who puts him in a worse light. I had him as wicked, as bad. But she goes to the next level. She says, where does he go? He goes to Moab. Moab is known for people that we can't marry into. Ammon and Moab. They did not help the Jewish people in the Midbar. And there's a famous Ramban that says that, okay, we don't expect the non-Jews to help us out. We're naive to think they're going to, help us. But these two nations owe us their lives because Ammon and Moab came from Lot. And if you have to show a car stove to anybody, it's that after Sodom, the nations came from Lot, and we have a huge kesher to Abraham because Abraham took care of Lot. Because of Abraham, Lot was saved from Sodom. Lot well left with Abraham. Abraham took him under his wing. Lot would have been nothing. Would have been Avodah Zarah. Not that he becomes something so special. Let's be really honest here. Um, so if anyone owes Hakaras Tov, it's Amon Moav to the Jewish people. And just like Lot chooses when Avram says, "You got to leave me," he could choose anywhere in the world. Let me stay in the valley. Let me do my own settlement. Lot goes to a place where they're anti-chesed. Let me go to a place where they so hate chesed. They hate guests. They kill guests. I want to go there because you know what? I can live there, and no one's gonna freaking bother me. Sorry. Look at Elimelech. He could go anywhere. You don't like the Jewish people. You don't like your people. They're bothering you. You're wealthy. People are taking your stuff. Okay, you know something? I don't want to help them. You know what? I'll daven for you. Listen, I'm nervous. My family, we're also maybe starving. It's a famine. You know what? If you work for me, I'll give you something to eat. Or you know what? At the very least, let me daven for you. You know what? I can't help you out. You see people in shul. You don't have to stalk for someone. I'll daven for you. I feel bad. Haslacha. Come next time. There's a way to kind of daven. That's what the Gemara says. You don't even daven. Eli Melech, he not just doesn't want to help or daven, but he leaves the Jewish people and goes to a place where he knows he is going to be intact with his stuff. He goes to Ir Moav. Moav, like we said before, they are not helping people. They didn't help the Jews. And Elimelech says, let me go to the place. Let me take my sons and my wife to the place that no one will ever bother me. Indifference, apathy, literally what the Matzorah, we talked about the Masorah. This is literally the description of Masorah. Doesn't care, lashon hara, saying bad things, hating people. What do I care? Nothing, zero. And this idea of this Elimelech is kind of the opposite of what Rus does. Elimelech leaves his people. Rus embraces her people. Tells Nami, "I'm going with you." Elimelech, he runs away from Chesed, and Boaz and Rus run to Chesed. Rus helps Naomi, brings her back, and Boaz has a huge field, wealthy, and helps the people, welcomes the people, gives shalom to the people. This is going to be the leaders. These are going to be the mother, father of Mashiach. And Boaz, we know, dies the next day. They, they consummate the marriage, and he's dead the next day. And we know the story. The story is David Melech. We know the story. And we know that Mashiach's coming from the base David. And this is literally the culmination. This is really the lesson of why Rus is here. Because we just can't wake up and open up a Gemara. Oh, Sphira, let me just learn more, which is good too, obviously. Shavuos night, let me do this. You have to work on this, and it's only with chesed. And the chesed, adm l'chavero, that's how we prepare. And that's how we prepare for Shavuos. That's how Rus and Boaz are preparing us for Mashiach. That's the path. Believe Lev Ishachad, Levachad. That's how we become Levachad. That's how we could become Malachas Kohanim, go Kadosh, and that's how we can go into Kabbalah Satorah tonight. And with that, one more point actually, Parshas Nasso, because we're landing it, you're not. Nasso is the love of the Kohanim, the love of Kohanim. If you don't love people, you cannot do Beres Kohanim. There's a lot of special people that I know in my life that have to be Kohanim. My brother-in-law's a Kohen. My daughter-in-law's a Kohen, or was a Koheness, I guess that's true. My friend from Atlanta, my Warheim, Mr. Marsh Mannheim, our Warga, our Casper, some great Kohanim I know. They really Katsy, special people that are Kohanim. And the idea is love. You can't just walk up there, bricks Kohanim, and be a shtickle jerk. And no, the bracha works. The bracha helps. If you don't love the people, they don't love you. You can't get up there. You can't make the bracha up there. So this is really more important. We're not looking for the biggest tzaddik. We're not looking for the biggest Talmid Chacham to be Berks Kohanim. Berks Kohanim is the Kohen. The Kohen has to have this love, and that's the Iker place. Amor lahem, amore. We have the I forgot his name. Oh, in Padua. Ramad Valley. Ramad Valley. Ooh, that was rough. Ramad Valley, amore, an Italian word for love. And without this love, we don't have it. And that's literally the lesson of Shavuos. Without this love for people, um, helping people out chesed, help people to a shir, help people go to chabura, help people with learning. getting rid of these boundaries, these barriers between us, trying to feel the love to kind of get people close to Hashem, close to Torah. That's going to be uh, bring Mashiach. And hopefully, with that in mind, with thinking more of Alam Chaveru, that'll get us to a more beautiful Shavuos night. And with that, Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom.